In December 1872, a ship was found sailing across the Atlantic with full sails, a hold full of cargo, and not a single living soul aboard. The sea was calm. The vessel was seaworthy. And yet every man, woman, and child who had boarded her weeks earlier had simply vanished. No bodies. No struggle. No answer. For more than a century, the Mary Celeste has remained one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in maritime history. The story begins in New York Harbor. On the 7th of November, 1872, the Mary Celeste, a two-masted brigantine, set sail for Genoa, Italy. She carried a cargo of over 1,700 barrels of raw industrial alcohol. At the helm was Captain Benjamin Briggs, a deeply religious and highly experienced seaman. With him were 7 crew members, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. By all accounts, they were a competent, sober crew on a routine voyage. Nearly a month later, on the 5th of December, another ship, the Dei Grazia, was crossing the same stretch of ocean between the Azores and Portugal. Her captain spotted a vessel in the distance, moving strangely, its sails set unevenly, yawing with the wind as if no hand was guiding it. As they drew closer, the crew grew uneasy. Something was wrong. They hailed the ship. No reply came. They watched for movement on deck. There was none. A boarding party rowed across the swells and climbed onto the deck of the Mary Celeste. What they found was deeply unsettling. The ship was deserted. There was not a single person aboard, alive or dead. Yet the vessel was in remarkably good condition. The cargo sat largely intact. There was food and fresh water. Personal belongings, clothing, and valuables remained untouched in the crew's quarters. Wherever the people had gone, they had left almost everything behind. The details only deepened the puzzle. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, suggesting the crew had left deliberately. A length of rope was found trailing from the vessel into the sea. Some of the ship's papers were gone, but the captain's logbook remained. Its final entry, dated the 25th of November, recorded nothing unusual and placed the ship near the island of Santa Maria in the Azores. Whatever happened, it happened after that entry, and it happened fast. There were traces of water below deck, and some of the ship's instruments, including the sextant and chronometer used for navigation, were missing. This detail is crucial. It suggests the crew did not flee in blind panic, but took the tools they would need to survive at sea. They planned, however hastily, to come back. And yet they never did. The lifeboat and its passengers were swallowed by the Atlantic and never seen again. When the Mary Celeste was brought into Gibraltar, the authorities suspected foul play. An inquiry was launched. Investigators searched for signs of violence, of piracy, of mutiny. They examined stains on a sword found aboard, wondering if they were blood. But tests found nothing conclusive. There was no evidence of a struggle, no looting, no bodies. The crew of the rescuing ship even fell under suspicion, accused of murder for salvage money, but nothing was ever proven. So what happened to the 9 people aboard the Mary Celeste? Over the years, theories have multiplied. Some are wild, involving sea monsters, pirates, or even the supernatural. But the most compelling explanations are rooted in something far more ordinary: fear, panic, and a fatal misjudgment made in a moment of crisis on the open sea. The leading theory concerns the cargo. The barrels of raw alcohol could have leaked, filling the hold with invisible, explosive fumes. Investigators later found that 9 of the barrels were empty. Captain Briggs, fearing an imminent explosion, may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat as a precaution, keeping the small craft tethered to the ship by that trailing rope, waiting for the danger to pass. If that rope then snapped, or a sudden gust filled the sails, the Mary Celeste would have surged forward, pulling away from the overcrowded lifeboat. The crew, with no engine and only oars, would have been unable to catch her. They would have watched their ship, their food, their only real chance of survival, sail steadily away over the horizon, leaving them adrift in a tiny boat on a vast and merciless ocean. Other theories point to a waterspout, a seaborne tornado that could have battered the ship and convinced the captain she was sinking. Some suggest a faulty pump made it impossible to gauge how much water was truly in the hold, prompting a needless abandonment. Each theory has its supporters and its flaws. And none can be proven, because the only witnesses vanished with the lifeboat into waters that keep their secrets. The Mary Celeste herself sailed on for another 12 years, changing owners again and again, always shadowed by her sinister reputation. Sailors called her cursed. In 1885, her final captain deliberately wrecked her on a reef in the Caribbean in an insurance fraud scheme. It was a shabby end for a ship that had drifted into legend. Today, the mystery endures precisely because it is so plausible and so incomplete. There was no monster, no ghost, no crime scene, only a quiet, terrible chain of decisions made by frightened people we can no longer question. The Mary Celeste reminds us that the sea does not always take with violence. Sometimes it takes silently, leaving behind an empty deck, a fluttering sail, and a question that will echo for as long as ships cross the ocean: where did they go?